And what I wanted to do today was actually just talk to you about the UK as an Australian. And but little known fact is I was actually born here, and I was born in Brighton, and 3 months old was shipped off to the colonies with mum and dad, and but have come back here, and it's so exciting, and it's just the energy is incredible. Like the buzz everywhere is superb. Now I've actually invested in quite a few very young and fast-growing companies here, and I just wanted to talk to you about the ones that are successful and the trends that are going on, and the ones that really appeal to me as an investor. Everyone here is hustling. It's great. Has always been a natural, very strong entrepreneurial spirit in the UK. I mean, in Europe, it's or around the region, it's very much Eastern Europe, Scandinavia, and the UK that is driving a lot of the growth. And it's I was lucky enough to be part of this from the very start. So Nick D'Alessio, so the firm I worked for previously, we found Nick as a 15-year-old in his bedroom in Wimbledon, and Nick had been coding since he was 11, and he'd made sort of $30,000 by the time he was 14. And of course, like any normal 14-year-old, he came up with an idea about how to summarize text, and decided to go and hire a couple of MIT scientists and natural language experts from Israel. You know, it's like normal sort of thing you do. And but he did it all, and then the first time he had to tell his mum and dad what he was actually really been doing in his bedroom for a while was actually because we were putting $300,000 into his into a bank account, and he needed to open one up, and he had to explain that, you know, this firm owned by the 9th richest man in the world, Li Ka-shing, was in Hong Kong, and he'd sort of arranged all this from his bedroom, which just shows you the pure possibility of what's possible. And of course, Nick has now gone on to really transform Yahoo, and this is the last time I promise, guys, I'll mention Yahoo in the room, but has gone on to really transform Yahoo's apps, which is why Marissa brought him on board. And he's very young. He's now off to, having sold his company for 30 million, is now off to university for the first time. So that's Nick. Now the next one I invested in recently, these two guys. I also gave a company their first deal when I was working in Hutchison called SwiftKey. A long, long time ago, when they were just two kids that we found in Barcelona, and in their stall in Mobile World Congress. And we integrated them onto, I used to have a handset company, we integrated them onto our handsets, and they were that's the first time SwiftKey got integrated anywhere. And these two guys remind me of that. You know, the big thing here in the UK is about learning to code. You're going to see a huge amount of disruption in this space. Education, you know, so if you look at the big things that are going to get disruptions now, like Steve Case a couple of years ago, who was the founder of AOL, said the really big things that are going to get disrupted the next 10 years are the things that haven't been disrupted so far. And that is education, $1 trillion business in the UK, in the US alone. Transport, obviously Uber is in there. Energy, finance, which I'll come to in a bit, and health. Those are the big things, and there's a huge amount of money pouring in there because there's so much going on. These two guys have written a fantastic little thing about learning to help kids learning to code, and just, you know, straight graduates out of Cambridge, and they've hustled their way, and they got me, and they got a number of others, and they went on to this thing called Entrepreneur First, and I heartily recommend for a fast-growing business to start to look at this talent and see how you guys can be bringing this talent into your companies. Somehow. Also invested in these guys. These guys were also 16 when I invested in them, and they've done really well. They're in the Evening Standard recently. They're booming into their second year. And again, they did everything from Eton, which doesn't let them out except on weekends. And so again, they've got to do it. And it just shows you the power of the youth here in the UK and what they're actually doing to push forward with things. And then yesterday, this is not digital. This is This is actually a dance company, and I just invested in Zoe. And Zoe started her business at 16, but she's using a hell of a lot of digital techniques to get out. So she's got a dance company, which is really fantastic academies teaching kids how to dance. But then she's got a talent agency, which she's built the best kids to bring them into TV and movies. And then she also goes out to corporates and does diversity type acts with corporates. And she's done all of that her own, and she's sourced it, and she's got a whole bunch of finance people to invest into it. But she's using digital in so many powerful ways now to get out to the business. And I know, like, it's just the power of what she does from a social perspective and networking perspective, and her websites and her apps are all really, really high quality, and it just makes such a difference because as a parent, I am one, and of an awesome little 7-year-old. And when you go into looking, as you know, you look at a site and you're looking for something, and the best sites are the ones that really appeal to you. And she's understood that. She's built that very, very cleverly. And I think it's extremely important that design, and be better than absolutely everybody else, which is what she does. And the key thing, though, at the end of the day, that I've invested in here is because London is the financial capital of the world by absolute, it is the capital. And what is extremely interesting is that there is just a huge amount of companies coming in here to disrupt them. So this is one of my favourite companies. Neil was talking about these guys beforehand. TransferWise. So Tarvit, who's the founder of TransferWise, was the first employee at Skype. I've known Tarvit for a very long time. And he's out of Estonia, which is one of the absolutely booming countries. And you'll find actually that always the small countries are the ones, with the exception of the US, are the ones that, and China obviously, are the ones that are doing best. So that's been Israel, Estonia, Sweden, the UK, Korea, which I'm heavily into, Singapore. Again, so all the smaller countries naturally go global. And Tarvit is, I was at the stock exchange yesterday, and they're horrified by, a lot of the people in the room are quite horrified by Tarvit and his tactics, and it's working a dream. So he's doing extremely well. But you've got these very creative ways of shaking up the market and bringing attention. You've got to bring attention to yourself. Like, if you think about the amount of entrepreneurs that are launching every day in every country around the world is absolutely phenomenal. And you've got to be faster and smarter and better than apps. It's so fast, so much more than you used to be. You've got to stand out. You've got to play tactics like this. And there's a lot of people in this space, into the money transfer space. These guys got it right. They got it right in terms of their marketing, in terms of their advertising, in terms of their presence and what they're doing from a social media perspective. They really understand the whole gambit of it, and you've got to get. I highly recommend getting the people in, young kids getting in to do your marketing and do your social media and awareness, of course, under the guidelines that you want to put in there, but you've really got to shake it up. These are the type of people that you're competing with, and they pull stunts like this, and it just goes absolutely everywhere. So if you're looking at some of the businesses, fintech, which is what I invest in heavily here in London, is just huge. It's far more than Bitcoin. It's much more than Bitcoin. So, and the reason I got interested in fintech is because a couple of years ago I was talking to some friends of mine who were quite high-level bankers, and they were starting to buy, set up companies that were buying in IT infrastructure and just infrastructure from banks who were hiving it off as they weren't going to do the next version themselves. They weren't going to build the next thing themselves. They're going to hive it off, and they're putting them into these big companies which are sort of running legacy cash cow type systems. And the banks are like, you know what, we're just going to invest in the new startups. We're going to buy new startups. We're going to start doing accelerators. And so it has proven with Barclays and Santander and many others now throwing their way into it. Barclays is absolutely first out the gate and very, very successful. So, fintech here, I've invested in Triumph, which is in, it basically does a fantastic loyalty type program and system, well at the capabilities beyond of what a Sainsbury's or a Tesco's if they're around any longer, does. And basically, and look, Tesco's is a great example. Look at everybody was going around, and just think about the disruption of that. Everyone was going around and getting really worried about Tesco's building their stuff, building their shops and everything in their local villages. You know, I don't think those shops are going to be around much longer. So it's everything changes, and it changes so dramatically quickly. Gust. Mobile payments, which is a little NFC band, so you can go around and buy things at festivals initially, which they're making for $1. And now they're in discussions with London Underground, etc., so that that band can become a core band for Oyster payments in general, because it's so cheap, and you can just update it all the time. And you know, smartwatches and phones are fine, but that is actually really, really useful. Squirrel, anti-Wonga, had to happen, and they're coming out with a payroll-based system. So really clever, where you know, lots of businesses have employees who have payday loans, and that is a problem for the business. So they've come up with a way to work with businesses so that the loans can be advanced from pay in a really, really clever way. And it's a really nice thing. The employees benefit. Everybody likes them because, you know, they don't charge extortionate fees, and they don't, you know, it's just great. It's really nice. And then Clause Match, which just won a big competition recently in Spain, and Air, which is credit scoring for people, so loads of people coming into the UK all the time, and you can't get credit. You know, you can't get phones, can't get bank accounts, of course, right? And so what they did was that they have this great technology which looks out at that person's record overseas and what they are and their social standing and what their work is, etc. And so after you declined, a pop-up will pop up and say, hey, you've been declined, but would you like to take the Air credit scoring test? Which obviously takes the problem away from the mobile operators. Air takes care of it, but it just brings a huge amount, especially with the transient population in the UK. That's a really big, interesting thing. And again, you know, smart. All of these guys are less than 12 months old, and they're already pretty well funded. So I just wanted to quickly end with just some key things. And I think that a lot of you are probably looking at, okay, how do you know, from a mobile perspective, but obviously, you know, do I build apps? Do I build websites? Do I build you know, how do I do social? How do I do marketing, etc.? And a lot of that is a bit of a mystery. So there's just a couple of things with companies that I've been involved in previously that I just wanted to just emphasize as key points. So I was lucky to be on the board of Spotify from the very early days. And Daniel and Martin Lawrenson are absolutely brilliant. And the key thing is that I do find a lot of companies do spend way too much money on complicated prototypes. The best companies are always extremely simple, and they just grow. Look, I mean, Instagram, when Kevin sold Instagram, it was 10 people, and it was just for $1 billion. You know, you do not need a big team to build a smart app or a smart product. The prototyping is really key. And then, you know, I would say that the other one is just keeping it simple. People will over-engineer things for you, and as code gets more and more involved in your business, don't let it overdo it. There are people out there who can really simplify things for you, and just try and keep it simple as you're going through. And that's it, really. So that was the only key messages I wanted to get across. Thank you.